I'm Ryan,
I'm George.
and this is the Sound Project. So today, as part of the series that we've been doing, interviewing, the staff, we have our newest hire, George Waller. So you'll be you'll be an acoustical consultant, but then you'll also be like a sales coordinator.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and just talk about a little bit about you and like what your schooling experience was like, where you're from, and we'll go from there.
All right. Yeah. So I definitely have like kind of an interesting story about like coming to HD.
Yeah.
I'm from Florida. I grew up there and went to college there. I actually am on the last semester of my second degree right now. And so my first degree, I went to FSU and got a degree in economics. And once that was over, I was a little unsure as to what I was going to do. I had actually taken the LSAT, and that was kind of my direction once I graduated. Like, okay, I'm going to go into law. Mm-hmm. But the more people I talked to about it, it just didn't really seem like it would be a good fit for my personality.
Sure.
And so I kind of did a little bit of soul searching. I did some personality tests. Mm-hmm. And funny enough, the main personality test I got back said, okay, based on your results, you would be great in two different fields, music and engineering.
Okay.
And so, but at the time I didn't really know, like I've always been into music a lot,
Sure.
but I didn't really know how to just jump into that. So I was like, let's go into engineering. Mm-hmm. And my dad owns a construction company.
Right.
So I felt like civil engineering would be the most reasonable choice there because, maybe we could work together at some point. But anyways, about halfway through that degree in all these classes on designing roads and bridges.
You sound super excited about both of those things.
It was mind-numbing. I mean, it was just absolutely not great. And so I actually went to a professor and I was like, hey, like, do you know of any merging of like the two fields of music and engineering? Because like I'm struggling right now. Like this is not interesting to me at all. And so he was like, have you heard of acoustic engineering?
Yeah.
I was like, I have not, but that sounds awesome. And so I just dove into researching that. And I've talked to a few acoustic engineers that were saying that like mechanical engineering usually is a degree that you can get to go into that profession.
Sure.
And so I switched my major. What I also did though is I started reaching out to different acoustic engineering firms that specialized in studios. Because I was like, that is awesome.
Yeah.
I would, love to get into that. That is how I came across Haverstick Designs. Mm-hmm. And so when I first looked at the page, I was like, dude, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. There's no way this guy's ever going to respond to me. But let me just send an email.
Yeah.
And just see. And so I did, and Gavin got back to me in 30 minutes.
Yeah. I remember when Gavin got that email, by the way. Like,
Yeah.
I think I was in Gavin's office, like, talking to him about something when he got the email from you.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So it's, like, kind of cool, like, seeing, like, oh, like, we got this email from this person who's interested and, like, wants to talk about, like, what we do.
Yeah.
And now you're an employee. Like, so it's really cool, like, just seeing that transition. But anyways, go ahead.
No, it's so crazy. So Gavin actually agreed to do a call with me.
Yeah.
And so not only was it an hour call that he decided to do with somebody that is literally, it's not a client. It's just some random kid that emailed him. We had that hour call and he actually went over by like 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And that it just had this huge, it left such an impression on me.
That's awesome.
About who he was, and about the company. And at the end of it, he was like, we have an internship program
Yeah.
that you might be interested in. And I was like, Yeah, boy. So I went ahead and applied for that. And yeah, like a few months later, we talked over Christmas break.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, it's yours if you want it. And so that was like one of the most exciting moments of my life. Especially because I had some other job opportunities at the time that I was considering. And I wasn't super sold on them. And so when Gavin got back to me, I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. And so flash forward, I had a great internship experience, and that led to me getting a full-time position here, which I am just absolutely stoked about.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, you've kind of started, sort of. Like, we've had some training sessions and you're doing some work, but, like, ultimately you won't start until, I think, June, once after you graduate and everything.
Yeah.
And you said that you're from Florida, but I do want to make the comment, like, you are actually still living in Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you are not just from Florida. Like,
yeah. I've been living in Florida for 28 years. So I am what you would call a Florida man.
Get ready for the winter, buddy.
Yeah, I'm psyched about that, honestly. I've always been somebody that would much rather be cold than hot.
Sure.
So it's just been 28 years of pain.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm pumped about the winter, actually. We'll see how I feel about that when it's
I was going to say,
February.
wait till it comes. Yeah.
But, yeah.
That's awesome. So, all right. So you're in the acoustical engineering program. You're about to finish. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what you're planning on doing here.
Yeah. So I am super excited about the role here because we actually, me and Gavin talked, and we talked about a role that is both acoustical consulting, but also being on more of the sales side, where I get to talk to clients. And it's funny because if you would ask me like 4 or 5 years ago, like, hey, would you ever want to be in a sales role? I probably would have been like, no way, I could never do that.
Yeah.
But, you know, as you get older, you just get a lot better at talking to people. And I think the really cool thing about here is that, one, people are calling because they want to talk to you. It's not like a cold calling situation.
Right.
But also, it's like I just get to represent this company.
Yeah.
And I get to just be myself because I'm a positive person and someone that really believes in, for lack of a better word, just spreading love and that sort of thing. And so this company is all about that. And so I just get to be myself and answer questions and kind of help people in their process of designing their dream studio, which is amazing.
Yeah. That's I was kind of in a similar boat, like when I first started, like when Gavin talked to me about working here and he mentioned it being like a sales type role. I was really nervous because like I've had sales positions before, like, and it just wasn't necessarily my thing. But the thing here is like, I look at the job as like, I'm building relationships, like, and whatever job like comes from it, like great. But ultimately like my number one is like, I just want this person to know I'm here as a resource for them, and whatever may come from it comes from it. And it's a totally different scenario, like being able to look at it like that.
That's a good way to look at it.
Makes
look,
it easy.
we're doing some training right now.
Yeah, that's how you should look at the job. Bam.
And that's a really good point. And it also makes it so easy because it's something I'm so excited about too. Like I've built my own studio. Music is so important to me. And so it's like, it's something I get to be really excited about. Like they're like, oh, I want to build the studio. I want a live room and a control room and this and that. I'm like, awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
For you. That's
it's
sick.
Something that like we can all relate to. Which segues perfectly into my next comment is, so you just like, you're still very active in music. Like you just released a new single. So let's talk about like, what is your involvement in music outside of work?
So I am, I'm a producer and an artist and a singer. I'm kind of, here, how should I put this? I have an artist project called Walla, which is just, my last name is Waller, so I changed the ER to an A. So yeah, I have Walla that is, I I do the production and the vocals now and some of the instruments.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been making music for probably 8 years now.
Okay.
It wasn't super serious for a while.
Sure.
I got into it actually through, I wanted to record myself so that I could send demos out to like bars because I did live music.
Cool.
And so I just got it to record like covers.
Sure.
But one night I had a few friends over and we were like, hey, let's make a rap.
Yeah.
And so, I just I had like a keyboard and I just played a few bass notes and used like the drum machine on there to create a drum beat.
Okay.
And we did we each had like our lines or whatever that we did. It was just like the most fun thing ever. Like it was,
awesome.
it was so great. And after that I was like, hey, I could probably make some other stuff here.
Yeah.
And I've always been like super into EDM.
Okay.
And so that's great for producing out of your bedroom because you have all those sounds kind of available to you.
Yep.
Yeah. So I started making a little bit of stuff here and there. And like I said, it wasn't super serious, but I just had a great time doing it.
That's awesome. What got you into music like originally?
Well, so I would say that I've always kind of been into music. My family is very musical.
Okay.
It started with, it really started with my grandfather. My grandfather was the worship leader at our family church for, I want to say it was like 40 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's a long time. Okay.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
So he played the piano and sang, and he just did this amazing job. Everybody loved him.
Okay.
And then my mom kind of took the torch from him.
Okay.
She is like this amazing singer.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's done some really big gigs before. Like I think she sang at Disney World.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so she's done some really cool stuff. So she's obviously where I get a lot of my vocal talent from.
Sure.
I'm still practicing a lot to someday be as good as my mom. That is my hope.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever done a project together?
So we really want to, and it'll happen in the future. It's just we haven't like organized it super well.
Sure.
I tried to do something this last Christmas where I was like, hey, let's all sing this song. I'm gonna bring my recording equipment and record us doing it. But like nobody knew the song, and so we were trying to like learning it as we went. But also, I just wanted to say my brother is this extremely talented guitarist.
Yeah.
And he's great at singing too. And my sister is this amazing singer that we didn't even know about until like she just showed me a song a few months ago that she was like, hey, I'm working on this. I'm not sure about it. And I'm like, dude, this is amazing. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just always been in my family.
That's so cool.
I learned how to play the piano to impress a girl, and then off YouTube. And ever since I learned how to play, I was just super into it.
Nice.
But yeah, so I got serious about music after my first music festival.
Okay.
I was kind of in a dark place at the time. In college, I think that's true for a lot of people.
Sure.
I was just finding my way, and it was kind of rough for a little bit. And then I went to see, his name is Elenium.
Yep.
He's a pretty big EDM artist these days. But I saw him at Voodoo Fest in New Orleans.
Nice.
And I just remember it being like the first time I felt like this like overwhelming sense of happiness and joy in a long time. And I was standing in the crowd and I was just looking at it and I was like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
And so ever since then, my whole goal with music is basically to, even on a small scale, be able to do something like that for other people.
Sure. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't like really into EDM at all. And then once you interned, like with you and Nate, our other intern at the time, I was like, all right, what do you guys listen to? And I'm gonna check it out. And like now I listen to Illenium and like Odessa and
there you
like
go.
Said the Sky. Like I listen to them like on a regular basis now, like because you introduced me to them. And
they're great. Their music is just super cathartic, and so I feel like it helps you to just kind of get out all these emotions that it's hard to maybe experience sometime without that music.
The other thing too is like I've watched videos of like some of their performances at music festivals and stuff, and their production is just like next to none. I mean, it is insane.
Oh, it's off the charts. Yeah, I had never seen anything like it, and that is it's just so cool. That's like one thing that I hope I get to do someday is to have my music to be played with visuals and stuff like that. Because it just allows people to experience it on this much higher level.
For sure.
So
it makes it like you're not just listening, like it's a visual and like it's just a fully immersive experience at that point. So that's so cool. One story that I think is super, super cool that I don't think a ton of people have anything really similar that work here is so we're currently doing a project with Bay8 Studios in Miami. And when I told you that like we were working on a project with them, you're like, I've been there before. And it was like, whoa, like that's totally crazy. Cause like I said, I just don't know of someone else here where it's like, oh yeah, we have this project. And oh, by the way, I've also worked in that studio. So do you want to talk about like what that experience was like and what you did at Bay8?
Yeah. So that was a crazy experience. So I had released a song probably like 2 or 3 years ago, with my buddy Zach, who goes by the artist name of Zodel. And then we also have the vocalist on that song. Well, I did half of the vocals and she did half the vocals. Her name is Izzy B. And so it was it's like a house track.
Okay.
And so we released it and it got good feedback from the people that we knew, but it didn't really make like a huge splash in terms of like streaming numbers or anything.
Sure.
However, Izzy B's sister, who's a big DJ down in Miami. Izzy is too. I mean, she's great. But her sister ended up dating an NBA basketball player. And so she showed him the song and he was like, dude, this is awesome. And so he actually has his own label. And so he got in contact with me and Zach and was like, hey, like, do you guys want to come to the studio one day and maybe work on some new music? Because like, we want to like, you know, basically sign you guys and start making a lot of music together.
That's awesome.
And yeah, so I was like absolutely thrilled. Also super nervous because like, you know, I had to go into this studio and basically crank out something new in front of like a room of like 10 people, which I was not familiar with. My production process is usually at home with no one else. But it ended up going really well and it was a great experience. We didn't end up like working together too much after that. Just because he's a super busy guy. You know, obviously being in the NBA, you got a lot going on.
Yeah, for sure.
But
just having that single experience, even like that's insane. That's awesome.
That single experience was it was amazing for what it was, and I'm super grateful for it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So like we've talked about your music life, you know, outside of work, but then I know like you're getting into climbing. Like there's a climbing gym here that you're looking at getting into when you move here. Like, what else do you do outside of work?
Yeah, you know, I would say the main things that I do outside of work, other than music, all involve the outdoors. And so if I'm in a place that has a place to go hike and like have a cool scene, like a cool lookout point or anything like that, I'm gonna go do that.
That's awesome.
But the other thing is disc golf. I'm a huge disc golfer. My brother got me into it, and you know, anytime that he's back in town, we play a lot. But I also play a lot of my own, and whoever will play with me, honestly. I love bringing people out there.
I was gonna say that's something like you're only here for 3 days, and you guys and like you, Gavin, and then Nate, who was our intern, also with you last summer. Like you guys already have a disc golf like trip planned before you leave Indiana. And it's
Yeah.
like, all right.
Yeah, when Gavin let me know about the trip, I think that was like our first order of business. Is like, all right, yeah, you're gonna come. When's the disc golf?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's gonna be great. But yeah, honestly, anything outdoors, that's where I find peace and connection and
awesome.
inspiration. So
That's so cool.
yeah.
Well, I know like I'm super excited for you to be a part of the team. Like, and I know like right now you're really only kind of working part-time with us, but like once you do become like full time, like I'm really, really excited to see like what happens with your role here. So I always end like the series with the first time that we did this, it was me interviewing Gavin.
Yeah.
And, my wife like had said before the episode, before we filmed that day, that she's like, I want to know these 5 things, like once or after Gavin's episode. So now we just kind of start doing this rapid fire question thing.
All right,
So
hit me.
firstly, Coke or Pepsi?
I'm just gonna go Coke. I'm not like a huge soda drinker, but in terms of like just like a nice classic soda
Yep.
brand, I mean, Polar Bear,
Can't go wrong.
give me the Coke. Yeah.
That's fair. What's the big one in like Florida? Because it's kind of regional. Like is Coke or Pepsi like bigger in Florida?
Yeah, I feel like Coke is usually like the main go-to.
Okay.
But then they're like, "Are you okay with Pepsi?" And you're just like, I guess.
No, I'm not.
I mean, I'm not okay with it, but I will drink it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
What's another one? Favorite or go-to Mario Kart character?
Ooh. So I haven't played a lot of that, but when I have played, I always go with Metal Mario.
Okay.
It's kind of an inside joke with some friends of mine. Metal Mario.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
What's another one? Oh, if you go on a road trip, are you more of a music or a podcast person?
That's a good question because I'm about to be doing a pretty big road trip in a few months coming up here.
Yeah, that's true.
It's definitely a mix. You know, if it's a long road trip, I'm going to go for a mix of podcast and music.
Okay. What are some of, so like you mentioned Millennium, like what are some of your other go-to artists, go-to podcasts?
Go-to artists. I love, in a long car ride, I love to get into some Rufus Du Sol.
Okay.
Yeah, they have like just such a huge catalog of music that you can really kind of just dive into and just be in this cool world for a while.
For sure.
Some other ones would be like Lane 8, this new guy Melv that I've been listening to a lot.
Okay.
A lot of others, honestly.
Cool.
But I can't think of them right now.
No, it's okay. And then the last one is, what is a guilty pleasure of yours?
Ooh, a guilty pleasure. Let me think about that.
This is the one that I feel like everyone always has to think about.
Yeah. So I would say I really love Downton Abbey. I don't know if I should feel guilty about that.
No, that's okay.
It's not typically a show that guys like. Like
Sure.
I tried to get my dad into it and he was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
But I mean, I love it. I watched the whole series with my mom
Nice.
and it was awesome.
That's
So-
kind of where I was at too. Like for mine, my wife Alexi was like, "You have to say Dancing with the Stars is your guilty pleasure."
there you go.
It's like, yeah, all right, not necessarily like a male-dominated show, but it's like,
Yeah, for
hey,
sure.
like I can get down with that. So,
It's great. Yeah.
and one topic that I forgot to bring up
Yeah.
was when you were interning here, we talked about somehow tattoos came up.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know if I feel strongly enough to ever get a tattoo, except for one thing, and that's Team Hippo.
Ah, you remember that?
Yeah. Yes, I remember that.
Yes.
So tell us about Team Hippo.
Okay, yeah, sure. I'd love to. I'd love to be an advocate for Team Hippo right now. Yeah, so I have a group chat with some of my best friends from college.
Yeah.
At FSU, and these are some of the guys I love the most in the world. But one of the things we like to do is have these arguments about just like random stuff, just for fun.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how this came up, but the topic of hippo versus grizzly came up. Like, would on land a hippo beat a grizzly in just a match, in like a fair match? And so this conversation went from just a fun argument to like one of the most intense conversations I've ever had in my life. And it lasted for days. And so I've done more research on hippos than I ever thought I would have done.
I have too, since you've told me this too.
There you go. And what I found is that, interestingly enough, you can throw that question in just about any group of people, and it will be split down the middle. And you can just watch chaos ensue. So,
which is exactly what happened, because I think everyone from our team was out to lunch that day, and it was pretty much divided.
It's like, oh, I think it might be hippo, and then someone's like, actually, I think it's a grizzly. So feel free to use that if you want to. Team Hippo is the correct choice, by the way.
I was gonna say, I was convinced Team Hippo. Between like, some people were making the argument of like, no, like you get swatted by a grizzly, you're done. But then you look at the thickness of the skin on a hippo and it's fine. And then you look at how fast those things can run and swim, and then like they're crushing anything that gets in their mouth. Like, Team Hippo.
Absolutely. The hippo's bite force is like considerably stronger. Their skin is too thick for a grizzly to penetrate. Their weight difference is massive. I mean, like MMA. In MMA, they have weight classes that are separated by 5 pounds. So if you take a 4,000 pound hippo versus a 600-pound grizzly bear, what do you think's gonna happen? So and I could go on about that, but I won't. And by the way, Team Grizzly right now is gonna watch this, and they're just gonna be like just yelling at the TV.
So all right, we'll let them blast the TV, like the computer.
Leave a comment. Honestly, Team Grizzly, leave a comment if you want to. State your case. You're wrong.
Still, they're wrong. Go ahead and say what you want, but no, it's Team Hippo all the way.
There you go.
Well, that's been another episode. Go ahead and comment below if you're Team Hippo or Team Grizzly.
Nice.
And thanks for being a part of the S.O.U.N D project.